Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the University at Buffalo School of Law. Thank you for joining us as we kick off our virtual open house week with our Dean, Aviva Abramowski. My name is Kristen Kelly. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions and Coordinator for Diversity Recruitment. I commend you for considering New York's public law school for your legal education. This session is being recorded, so we ask that you participate with your cameras on, but with your audio muted for now. If you haven't visited our website recently, I encourage you to do so. There, you can take a virtual tour of O'Brien Hall and access information about our program and video library. I will share a flow page link in the chat, which gives you easy access to web page, recruitment materials, admissions blog, and a lot more. I've also shared my email address there, and please feel free to reach out to the admissions team. We are here to help you throughout the admissions process. There we go. I'm joined today by our Dean, Aviva Abramowski, who will provide welcome remarks, and then we'll open the floor up for questions. There you go. Aviva Abramowski is the law school's 19th permanent dean and the first woman to hold the position. She is an expert in insurance law, commercial law, regulation of financial entities, and legal ethics. She is the past chair of the New York State Association Task Force on Autonomous Vehicles and the Law. Since her arrival here in June of 2017, she has connected with hundreds of alumni, volunteers, and partners in the community. She has overseen the expansion of our clinical legal education program, the development of UB Center for the Advancement of Sport, our new entrepreneurship law center, and our growing mentor program. She's also led the implementation of our new undergraduate program in the law. Without further ado, I introduce Dean Aviva Abramowski.
Thank you so much, Kristen. And I just want to thank everyone in the admissions department. And of course, thank all of you for choosing to come to learn about law school and why it's a wonderful career choice. And thank you for signing up for my session. I'm really looking forward to the Q&A that we're going to have in a little while so that I can answer some questions, give you some tips and tricks as we walk through your new path of professional education together. So my name is Aviva Abramowski. I am the dean of the law school. I'm also a professor of law and have been for quite some time now. And I just want to welcome you to the University of Buffalo. We are New York State's flagship public law school. We'd obviously be preferring to meet you in person, so thank you so much for zooming in. I hope you take advantage of all the sessions that we're going to have this week because the admissions department has worked very hard. And even though you're online, you're going to be able to get a good glimpse of what makes UB Law at this law school and our community so special. I'm also recommending that even though you can't come on a physical tour today, please be sure to check out the virtual tour that admissions set up for you and look at our new classroom facilities on the first floor and at the basement level of O'Brien Hall. You'll visit the Visit Law School page. So before we discuss why you should go to UB Law, I want to take a moment to assure each and every one of you that throughout COVID, the university has been very comprehensive in its health and safety plan. And as a result, we've had a successful return to live instruction in this fall. We've all learned that it's not always possible to know what lies ahead, but we can tell you that your health and your safety will always be our highest priority. Okay, now let me congratulate you on making the first and best, most important decision in your career in law, deciding to attend law school. It's very important that you are here right now at this critical time in our nation because our country needs good, well-trained lawyers, and that's what we do here at UB. Students entering law school today, that's you guys, come at a time where there are an especially large number of serious legal disputes in our country. Decisions that will be made in courts of law that will ultimately define the society that we live in. And who helps define those questions are attorneys advocating on behalf of others. Also, technology, as you can see, is fundamentally transforming our lives. This leads to a whole host of new important legal questions in intellectual property, in a variety of different ways, how the law interacts with the court system. You really are on the cusp of great change. And of course, with great change comes great decisions that need to be made and great advocates to be born. So this is also an awesome responsibility, because the one thing that doesn't change is that clients need you. They need good, trained, ethical attorneys who will represent them and their needs in a court of law. They need access to representation, and they need you to know both what you're doing and to do it in a responsible manner. And it's hard, because this is what it means to be a nation of laws. Of course, it's not just a responsibility, it's also an incredible privilege to be able to go to law school. And it's one you'll never regret, because ultimately, no matter what you choose to do with your law degree, you will have learned the fundamental understanding about how law orders society, and you'll carry that education throughout your entire career. Let me tell you, I love the law. It is my first and greatest love, probably why I became a law professor. But it really is a chance for you to engage directly in the social questions of the day. So why UB Law? I suppose that's more of the question you guys are asking. Well, because we'll prepare you to take on that responsibility, to learn how to practice law both professionally, competently, and passionately, and to graduate with the skills that you need to be able to successfully represent these clients and be the change we need. We have a lot of different ways in which you can learn this. We have what are called the doctrinal law classes, where you learn what I would call the foundational bricks of the law. But we also have 10 clinics and 2 practicum. That's where you get the opportunity in a clinic to practice law under an order, under a professional attorney, one of your professors, to actually get into court while you're still in law school. So I just want to go over a couple of these different clinical opportunities. These opportunities have real clients, so it's real responsibilities, and they include things like our community engagement legal clinic. This one started directly in response to COVID. We've been working with clients remotely on matters such as forestalling evictions and assessing COVID's impacts on prisoners. We've done unemployment work throughout this. There's a lot to do, which means there's a lot of need for student attorneys to help pitch in. We also have a criminal justice advocacy clinic, which just received a $50,000 grant from the American College of Trial Lawyers. And this funds their work under New York State's new Domestic Violence Survivors Justice Act. It's a part of what we call our Innocence in Justice project, where our clinic students help reduce prison sentences for domestic abuse survivors. Another good opportunity for you. We offer concentrations in advocacy through what we call our Advocacy Institute. That's when you do things like mock trial, moot court, appellate advocacy. You're not in a real court, but you get the opportunity to train so that when you get there, you know what to do. In fact, this spring semester, we're proud to have one of our courses taught by the Honorable Eugene Fahey. He's a UB alum who recently just retired from the New York State Court of Appeals. Now, you might know in New York, the highest court in the state is the Court of Appeals, and the Supreme Court's actually the trial level court. You'll learn why those are called what they are when you go to law school. Just be prepared. Many of our students compete and win at these mock trial and moot court things, and I encourage you to do them. We have national and international ones and mediation competitions. Usually we fly you out there live. A lot of them have been remote for the last couple of years. I'm hoping that as times change, we'll be able to send students on these teams again in real life. And they've included places like Vienna, Paris, the big cities. It's a great way to learn your skills and also travel and meet people from other schools. Another opportunity for those of you who might be interested is we have what I call Study Abroad in New York City. It's the New York City Finance and Law program, which you can actually pre-register for once you're admitted. It gives you a semester of learning law and finance, speaking with real practitioners down in New York City, and it's on site. So it's a semester in Manhattan. We can go over that also more together in the Q&A. And if you have a passion for sports, which I know I do, and I'm completely heartbroken by the Bills' loss yesterday, but very proud of the incredible game that was played. We also have what's called our Center for the Advancement of Sport, which is directed by Professor Nellie Drew, a nationally recognized sports expert, and we offer a concentration in sports law. So one of the things we're going to invite you to do, and you can look at the chat, is you can attend a Zoom panel discussion next week called Powerful Women in Sports, Achieving Success in a Male-Dominated Industry. And the link will be in the chat. The program was organized by our Sports Center and our amazing student group. They serve, they're going to have a really interesting panel, which includes Lisa Friel, who's Senior Vice President of Investigations for the NFL, Tara Van Dierver, coach of the Stanford University women's basketball team, Cheryl Myers Booth, a local attorney and agent for NBA players. So I recommend you, if you want to, if you're interested, zoom into one of these panels because it'll give you a chance to hear what lawyers do and how they try to mentor students at the time so you can think about all the different ways in which your degree can help. We also have an entrepreneurship law center if you want to help people become startup companies. And that's a great way to help further develop the economy of Western New York. People need lawyers to be able to start businesses, and you can learn how to do that. And of course, we have a long history and commitment to criminal law. My own father graduated from this law school in 1970. He was a criminal defense attorney. He went on to become a criminal law professor. He did a lot of appellate work. Unfortunately, he passed away before I became dean here, but I hope he's proud of me. And his picture is out on the third floor hallway right outside of my office. So I want to tell you that not only do I believe personally in our commitment to fairness and criminal justice, but we have a long list of victories and alumni who'll be happy to work with you. So why am I focusing on some of these opportunities? It's because providing access to justice is the heart of everything we do here at UB Law. We're committed as a community and a group of legal scholars to advancing issues of social justice and racial equity, both at the law school, but also within the legal profession as a whole. We have a diversity, equity, and inclusion office, which is rapidly growing, led by Professor Luis Chiesa, supported by Amber Melvin. And this office also organizes additional panel and mentoring opportunities on issues of equity and justice with members of the local bar associations. Why do I keep talking about the alumni? In some ways, it's because as soon as you become a law student, you start engaging with the other lawyers. Over 85% of the lawyers in Erie County are UB Law alumni, and they are all very interested, including the other 15%, in working directly with students from the beginning. Because as you'll learn, this is a profession that believes in giving back and making sure that the ladder doesn't get pulled up behind them. It is in all of our interest to have good, trained new lawyers coming through, and they want to work with you and help you become who society needs you to be. I have another exciting one we're going to put in the chat. If you can't make the women's sports one, we have a program coming up next week that you're also invited to, which was arranged with us in the Bar Association of Erie County and the global law firm Fried Frank. That's Thursday, February 3rd at 6:30 p.m. John Marshall, who's the son of Thurgood Marshall, our first African-American U.S. Supreme Court Justice, will participate in a Zoom webinar session titled Growing Up Marshall. John will discuss what it was like to grow up as the son of an icon and the impact of his father and his life on American history. You are all invited to that, and the registration is also in the link in the chat. I also just wanted to take a second before I go into more detail about the law school for me to say, I recognize how important and mental health is for everyone here and wellness right now. We have a firm commitment to trying to support you, not just as young fledgling attorneys, but also as people throughout the time of your education and further into your launch into the legal community. We have an on-site counselor available. We have a student wellness society, which is a bunch of good and fun people to work with. And of course, student services will work with you throughout your time in the law school. And we put on something called Wellness Week. So we will be there for you throughout this whole journey together. It has been a very difficult time for society as a whole, and all of us have been collectively dealing with this pandemic. And I want you to know that I recognize that. And I want to say how proud I am of everyone here for continuing their education into graduate school. Even if you don't choose us at UB, it shows incredible grit. So congratulations for all of you for coming to this meeting. Now, you might have heard, so here's another good thing. We accept the GRE as part of our application. So if you haven't taken the LSAT, or if you don't want to, or you've already taken the GRE and you want to use that, that's another opportunity for you. But what truly makes UB different, and the thing I want to really focus on here, is our sense of community. This is a community that includes the alumni I've been talking about who cannot wait to meet the next class, a network of nearly 13,000 graduates who work at firms and agencies around the globe. We have an especially strong presence here in Western New York, of course, and as a result, our local alums are active participants in your education. They work as adjuncts, they work as mentors, they teach classes, they help our new graduates find jobs, they help you find summer jobs. They are invested from go in your success and will be partners in your education. So when you meet them, follow up. Now, I want you to know also that I understand that choosing to go to law school and which law school is a major decision. I'm asking you to trust us, basically, that we will be those type of helping hands to give you the education and the pathway and the opportunity that you need to be a great lawyer. I am the daughter of a great UB lawyer, so I definitely know it can and will happen. And we're excited to help you on that journey. So on behalf of the law school, I just want to thank you so much for what you're doing. And I actually want to think, we were all laughing a little bit about that heartbreaking Bills game last night, but it's important to recognize that in court also, obviously you want to win for your client, but it's more important to play the game right, fairly, and with heart. That was extraordinary football yesterday. And that's what we can do here in Buffalo and Western New York. So we're a Bills team. I'm a Bills fan. And in a lot of ways, I was inspired by that, even if we didn't necessarily win this time. There's always an appeal.
Thank you, Dean Abramowski. At this time, you are welcome to submit your questions via the chat box or raise your virtual hand, and then we'll ask you to turn your camera on and unmute and ask your question.
And don't be shy. It's really, yeah. Kristen, do you want to call on somebody?
Yes. Oh, yes, I'm looking for virtual hands, sorry.
Oh, they had real hands.
Caleb?
Hi, I'm sorry. My name is Victoria Sclafani. I have somebody else's Zoom account logged in. But my question is, in these unprecedented times, what is the best advice you could offer today's generation of future attorneys?
The best advice of, so are you asking because it's uncertain times or?
Yes, uncertain.
Okay. Uncertainty is when people need lawyers most. If you think about it, people only need lawyers usually on their bad days, right? It is often a time when people are facing the immense pressure of the entire state justice system on them alone, right? Or some other kind of truly traumatic event, death of a family person. They need a state representation. When things are more uncertain, they need even better lawyers. They need help. They need help with landlord-tenant law. So I think, in a way, every generation is called to do different things. And this generation of lawyers is being called to help more because there are so many things that people need them to do. And so the uncertainty in some ways is an opportunity and also a call to the profession.
Thank you. Katrina?
I'm just going to call. Katrina?
Hey, how y'all doing tonight? Thanks for taking the time to do this. This law will probably be my third foray into a career. Looking to switch. So that's to say I'm no spring chicken. So I feel like I don't have an awful long time to attend a school. Well, the schools that I want to attend are the ones that help me to pass the bar and put the resources around it to ensure I can pass the bar. Tell us a little bit about UB and the work to help us to be successful at that. I understand the school experience. I'm not pushing that aside. I think that's very important and I want that. But I also want to be assured of the process, the systems, the programs to help us to, reach that end goal of being practicing attorneys in the eyes of the state that we live in.
Sure. So first, let me just speak to the first part of your question. In a lot of ways, becoming a lawyer, it makes a lot of sense after life experience in a variety of things. because you have the perspective to understand what needs to be done, and how the law influences so many different parts of life. So you'll be able to kind of more hone in on different areas of practice as you go through it. Now, it's good for you to come in already thinking about, obviously I want to pass the bar exam. The bar exam is your licensing exam, which happens after you graduate, and you need to pass it in order to become a licensed attorney at law. Without that, you cannot practice law. It's a crime. So what does the law school do? First, I have to say, every law school will prepare you to pass the bar. I mean, to be fair to my competitors, right? We do a very good job in that here. It's important to recognize that from the beginning, the classes are there to make you think like a lawyer, to learn the different skills you have, right? And a lot of it is trusting in the process, in ourselves, so that as you go through the courses, when you hit the materials at ever higher levels of understanding, you make sure you've gotten all your skills, right? Try not to, we make sure through advising that people don't avoid the harder courses that they might not have wanted to take, right? It's important to make sure you exercise the whole mind, just like if you want to be a great athlete, you exercise the whole body, even though people don't always like it. But that is the surest way to make sure you pass the bar, is by taking the bar courses, doing well in them. If you haven't done as well in one, taking another course in the same topic before you graduate. And again, coming back again to the same topics over the course of your education. If you're talking about specific enrichment, we have a summer start program for which is open to everyone, and I recommend everyone take so that you can start. It's called Jumpstart, so that people can learn skill set, test taking skills, and the variety of what you would call the exam-based skill sets, multiple choice, essay writing, identifying issues, how to read a law exam, those types of things, even before you come into being a 1L. And then finals reprise that over and over again, so that you make sure. That's why grades matter. Grades don't matter because of some kind of other, they're no reflection on any individual as a person. What they are is a snapshot of how well you've managed to both absorb the information and articulate it in a very specific way on a law school exam. Okay. So we continuously reprise those skills throughout the time of your legal education, from the time you're a 1L, a 2L, a 3L. There's also what we have a bar specific course open to the 3Ls, which is all about New York law and all about preparation for the bar exam that we give here in New York State, which is actually the UBE Uniform Bar. And it is specific on test taking skills. We have a person, William McDonald, who does academic support throughout your time here and is also our bar support specialist, and a variety of different enrichment opportunities through the whole period of time. It's really just a question of taking advantage of the opportunities before every student and drilling, right, until being able to answer those questions is second nature. There's no trick to it. There's no trick to passing the bar except hard work and practicing.
Perfect.
Thanks.
When does a typical student who's looking to go into law school take the LSAT?
You might answer that better. I mean, they take it before they apply.
Yep. So I tend to recommend taking the LSAT if you're a traditional undergraduate student sometime in your senior year, or maybe even the August before you start your senior year. That way it'll give you an opportunity to retake that test if you're not happy with your score. You can certainly schedule an appointment to chat with us, and I'll add my contact information at the end again. They'd love to know more about housing opportunities at the law school. Dean Abramovsky, if I can take that one if you'd like. Housing.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So we have both on-campus and there's also off-campus housing. I will add a link in just a moment that will explain more about the housing opportunities. Do you mind repeating the list of clinics at our school?
So the full list of clinics, Kristen can pull off of the website and put into the chat, but a few of the ones that we have a lot of clinics. We have over 10, and a few of the ones that I spoke about were community engagement, which does a variety of things, including forestalling evictions and work with prisoners, criminal justice clinic. We have a clinic in entrepreneurship. What are some of our other clinics? Environmental law, animal law, civil rights and transparency, which is basically the First Amendment, some other freedom of information. And there you have the full list in the chat. There's a lot of choices. All of them are good. It's important to recognize that any skill set you gain in any area of the law while you're a student will transfer to representation in any other area of the law. Do not foreclose opportunities before you've tried them yet, is also important. Now, a lot of things that might actually be different is some of the procedural practice in the different courts. That's where people get nervous because the rules in, New York Civil Court will be different from criminal court, which will be different from surrogates court. But you will also learn those procedural rules along the way. And we have the opportunity for extensive externships. While you're a student, you can work for a judge, for credit for a judge, volunteer for a judge as an externship, work at a different NGO, and get that opportunity for you to learn how the papers are actually filed. But the doctrine you understand in each different area will be applicable in others. There's not one class in law school that I regret taking. There's not one that I look back on and thought that was a waste of time. I might not have thought it when I was a student, to be fair. But later I realized that every single one of them, right, was a valuable thing for me, and it helped add another tool to my toolbox. You never know what information is going to be needed. All knowledge is worth having.
Great. Dean Abramowski, what was the most challenging part of your law school experience, and how did you overcome it?
Okay, so the most challenging part for me was definitely legal writing. So that you've got the doctrinal courses that you've all heard of, like criminal law, constitutional law, contracts law, and those are hard. Don't get me wrong. And if I hadn't said it before, law school is hard. We're not trying to pretend that it isn't, but it's worthwhile. Okay. But legal writing for me, I found very hard. And that's where you learn how to write memos and motion papers and all of those types of things. And it's not that I wasn't a good writer. I was a good writer. I was editor-in-chief of my high school newspaper. In fact, if anything, I thought I was too good of a writer to listen to my legal writing instructor. And so making that transition from having been a writer in certain ways, either as a journalist or writing essays in school, the type of papers, turning that around into legal writing for me was hard. And I had to take quite a bit of criticism, and multiple drafts and work with my instructor and change it again, even though I didn't know why. I love adjectives. And they're like, get rid of all these adjectives. We're trying to make a legal point, not write an op-ed. I get it. It took me a little while and it wasn't easy, but I got through it. And I have to admit, I'm now a very good legal writer.
There is a question about LSAT workshops and practice tests. We are just waiting for our instructor to confirm our next set of dates. And I put the link in the chat so that you can check back there. They should be posted pretty soon. Dean Abramowski, can people practice in more than one area of law? There's so many fields that interest me.
Yes, of course. In fact, most people practice in more than one area of law. It's kind of a myth that you really specialize as much, and certainly not right away. A lot of people are general practitioners. You're working in a small firm, you have to try to help all the client. Let's say you've got a small business that's your client. That client is going to need all kinds of help. They could need tax help, they could need contracts help, they can have litigation with an employee, they could have insurance problems. So in a lot of ways, you do what your clients need. And depending on the type of firm you're in, you can have clients with diverse interests. The larger the firm, the more they specialize because they have lots and lots of people, so they can focus groups, and different groups will do different parts of representing one client. The smaller the firm, you've got one client, you have to do more for them, so you do more practice areas at once. Now, it is true that very few people practice criminal law and civil law. That usually is one or the other, although a lot of people will start at legal aid or the district attorney's office practicing criminal law and then move into private practice representing private clients. So one doesn't foreclose the ability to do the other. It's just rare to do those two things at quite the same time.
Great, thank you. Namisha.
Hi, my name is Namisha. I'm a prospective applicant for the upcoming fall. My question is, what is the criteria for earning a spot on Law Review? And do you guys have write-on competition as well?
Again, Kristen will need to pull that from the website, and I am almost 100% positive we have a write-on competition. You know, my father claimed before he died, so there's no way for me to confirm this, that he was actually responsible for UB Law's write-on competition, because at the time they only graded on, but he was so persuasive that he managed to get them to agree to be on the Law Review. This might be apocryphal. I have stated that I cannot in fact confirm it. But also, you don't really do that until towards the end of your first year.
Thank you.
No problem. But I like the ambition. Oh, by the way, law reviews for if you don't know, are journals where every law school puts out a variety of legal journals where professors will write legal articles. And it's the students, 2Ls and 3Ls, who edit them, help arrange them, do the site checking and all that type of thing to increase the base of knowledge so that working attorneys can find something on topic, cite it. It's considered very prestigious because it's excellent training, specifically on the detailed focus work. So I recommend doing a journal if you have time while you're here. Okay, Peter, I think.
Yeah, hi, my name's Peter John. Thanks for everything you've set up to this point. I was just wondering if you guys had any concentrated courses or like external relationships to international law or immigration law, especially with it being such a hot topic right now and something that really impacts Buffalo especially. So I'm just curious about what connections you might have to that in the curriculum or in external opportunities.
We have both. We have a specialized program in what's called cross-border studies, primarily taught and supervised by Professor Meredith Lewis, who is also our Vice Dean for international, which includes helping international students, but also doing international law. We have an exchange program with universities around the world, although I think we primarily exchange with the university in Scotland. So you can take a semester abroad if you wanted to. And of course, we offer immigration and other faculty with that interest. Although that is, again, usually considered to be a 2L or 3L class. I would also recommend that whatever it is you're interested in, that's a type of work where as soon as possible, you can volunteer to do pro bono projects in different areas of law, work with other lawyers, try it out, get some experience. And then you could always try to do a formal externship with an organization that either does cross-border work or does immigration, or both. You can take more than one externship. And of course, you get a paying job over the summer, which I recommend.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Dean Abramowski, is UB Law non-traditional and first-generation friendly?
Definitely. I would say that the vast majority of our students are first generation. That is what we're for. And of course, we're a public law school. That's why we exist, right? To open the door for access to legal education. That is our purpose, to help first generation students, non-traditional students, and everyone else, of course. We serve the whole state, the nation, and the world, but that is our mission. So definitely. And you will not be alone by any means if you're a non-traditional or first generation student.
Yes, and just to add on to that, we actually have a first generation law student group that is newly formed. And I'll continue on with Namisha.
Hi, my next question would be, aside from LSAT and GPA, Dean, what do you think makes a student stand out in their application?
Oh, to the law school. Yes, okay. So you'll have to ask admissions, but the best trick I ever heard was focus on detail. Law is a detailed occupation. So making sure that things are dotted and T's crossed, I'm sure helps a lot. But that might not be a secret.
Does the School of Law offer a pathway into labor and employment law?
Of course. So those types of questions about where you would work really, again, come out through your jobs. So we obviously have courses on both labor and employment law and employment discrimination and those options. And then if this is something that you're interested in doing, it would be a good idea to both extern and, of course, get a summer job in a firm that does that type of work.
Great. Paul asks, what advice or tips would you give someone with work experience, engineering in my case, who wishes to use their technical background to practice patent law? Also, would you advise such a student to take your IP and privacy law concentration?
So, yes. So, and anyone with that type of science background, we highly recommend you think about taking the patent bar also. That's separate. You don't actually need to pass the regular bar to become a patent agent. And there are lots of employers here like IBM and similar companies who really need patent agents able to represent them. Of course, I would also recommend passing the regular bar, in which case you could be a patent attorney. So there are classes on patent law. There are classes in all the different aspects of intellectual property. It's really up to you if you feel the need that you really want to get the concentration per se, as opposed to just taking a bunch of courses in it. And it's the type of thing you might want to talk with both student life and your alumni mentors. I'd say it isn't necessary to concentrate with a formal concentration in any way. But if that's something you're planning on doing and you have a background in engineering, the concentrations are developed so that you know which courses really comprehensively round out the skill set that you need if you're practicing in that kind of area of law writ large. But that doesn't mean you're required to do any concentration. The other thing that's important to recognize is most people come in thinking they want to do one kind of law and then end up in a totally different area of law. And that's good. Try to keep an open mind is best. So I will admit I was the same way. I told you my father was a criminal defense attorney. My grandfather was a criminal defense attorney. I was 100% sure I was going to become a criminal defense attorney. And then my second year summer, I got a job. And in that law firm, they needed some help. And wanted to get my billable hours in and show that I'm a good worker. So I said, sure, I'll take this case too. And we were suing an insurance company and doing plaintiff side private representation of companies against insurance companies who've denied coverage. Now, very few people come into law school thinking, I want to practice insurance law. Just state that. And it's a laugh line when you guys are live. But the reality is, lots of people do. And I love suing insurance companies. Did I know that as a 1L? No, I did not. But it turned out it's true. I really enjoyed it. So there's going to be things like that that will surprise you, that you may actually really like doing when you go through it. A lot of law is really just an iteration of contracts law. So a contract is all contracts. You could have a contract for anything, an insurance contract, an employment contract, a sales contract. There's all different kinds of contracts. A lot of the practice areas, you kind of call them one or the other, but they're really advanced contracts law. Does that make sense? So you really want to be good at contracts, and then you're practicing disputes. You either could draft a contract, like in transactional law, or litigate over a contract, assuming you're going to say somebody breached it or didn't do what they promised to do, right? So all of those things are advanced contracts law. That's why we have a certain number of classes in the first year that are your building blocks, and then all the other ones are kind of advanced contracts, advanced property law, advanced torts law.
Awesome. Peter?
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious what you see as like the top benefits to going to law school in Buffalo and eventually practicing in Buffalo compared to another city that's comparable in size versus, maybe like going to a city like New York City, where it's a lot bigger, but there could be a lot less opportunities in terms of like summer jobs and things like that. So I'm curious what you think the benefits are to staying in Buffalo specifically.
So I'm obviously biased, right? I love the people here. I work with the people in the legal community here all the time, and they're great. And when you start getting mentors, it's very nice to work with people that But of course, we have alumni mentors and programs in New York City also, and we have a lot of jobs in New York City for students too. And we have jobs in DC, and there'll be a lot of different opportunities. So what I would tell you is actually don't prejudge yet where you're going to stay. It's the same thing. Keep an open mind. Maybe try out at least one summer or a part-time job somewhere outside of Buffalo too. There are always different opportunities, and also you aren't locked into one place, forever. I practiced in New York City, and then I came upstate. They still allow me back in New York City. So, it's not like you have to pick one forever. It's more of a question of where is the good opportunity for you to start. And our job is to make sure you have the best chances for a good life start as we can help provide.
A question in the chat is what kind of dual degree programs does UB offer? And I did put the link in the chat, but if Dean Abramowski would like to elaborate on any of our dual degrees.
There's quite a few. I would say the two most popular are with social work and the MBA. And you know, it's not a bad idea if you've got a little bit more time, because you can get 2 degrees at once, and become more, you know, more focused on one field, but it's also not necessary. I just want to make that clear. Just a regular old JD is more than enough to do almost every area of practice in business. You know, but again, if you really want to explore more than one, that's why we have them in a synchronized way, so that you can get credit for both and graduate faster than you would if you had to take one or the other in sequence.
Correct. Okay. Which UB program would you recommend a prospective student to look into if they want to go into corporate and business law?
Do you mean as an undergraduate or amongst the things that we offer in the law school? I'm going to just assume it's about the law school. So, so I would say if you want to look at some of our offerings, we've got, again, the New York City Law and Finance program, which is our, you know, a semester away in New York. It's been virtual these last couple of years, but which you do a lot. You work with a ton of corporate people. It's joint sponsored with the business school. You work in teams with the business law students. And we have a lot of alumni and other guest lecturers to really get an understanding of law and finance. We also have the entrepreneurship clinic that I spoke about before, which does startups. And I recommend that. And then there's also all kinds of summer jobs. I mean, basically, a lot of the work is also done by where do you work over the summer in corporate law. You know, there are banks that you can work for. There are lots of different places where you can get experience to help broaden out your resume on that outside of the formal school. And of course, there's lots of externships that are corporate related as well. And it's important to recognize that there is not corporate law, even if you work in a nonprofit, you have very similar types of legal issues in a nonprofit as you do in a private company. You'll learn what the difference is between the two of them when you take corporations and business associations. But you can volunteer for a extern for a nonprofit representing nonprofits and very much learn corporate transactional skill sets.
Great, thank you. What scholarship opportunities does UB Law offer?
That's for you, Kristen.
So every applicant is considered for merit-based scholarship with just the information within their application. So should you be offered admissions, at that time you'll know how much merit-based scholarship you are being offered. Now that heavily relies on your GRE, LSAT, and and GPA. After your first year, you will be able to use your first year transcripts to apply for additional scholarships. And the office, the registrar's office, posts all available scholarships for continuing students. Perfect. Okay. Are there special courses or programs for someone interested in adoption and family law?
Yes, we have an excellent family law concentration with some really passionate professors and practitioner adjunct faculty. And family law, again, is a storied tradition here. Many of our alumni were some of the first people in family court, first women in family court judges, created all different kinds of courts that were new on the scene. So there's a lot of opportunities in family law, both public and private, both working with child protection or with, adoption and custody. It runs the gamut.
Okay. Do we offer entertainment law?
Yes, Well, do we offer entertainment law
Well,
per se? We offer sports and
Yeah. Sport. It's our sports law concentration, but as you mentioned, contracts. And
yes, well, entertainment law, right? Yeah, that's a good point. So entertainment law itself, in a lot of ways, like sports law, is really corporate law, contracts law, IP law, for the brands, and then just really through a focus of sports teams or entertainment companies. There really is. There's not actually that much difference between representing the Sabres or representing a franchise of a hotel franchise or a fast food franchise in the nature of the law itself. A lot of it is about intellectual property and trademark and all of those types of things. There's employment contracts. Now, with sports, it's different. In a lot of them, there's the interesting players unions and things specific to that on employment law. And entertainment law, you have, again, some subtleties in the distinction between them. But basically what Kristen was prompting me to say is that if you want to be a good entertainment lawyer, or you want to work for, in-house someday for Etsy or something like that, it's really important to learn the basic skills, and a lot of them are transferable. Do you see what I'm saying? It's about getting to that type of company, as opposed to making sure you've got really good skill sets that would make you valuable to any company. That's what you do here first. But it does make it more fun to study it, in fashion or for a fashion company or something that we're interested in instead of, a hotel chain. Although representing hotel chains are excellent too. I just want to clarify that because we're being recorded.
Okay, any more questions? Is there opportunities to do externships in Rochester for commuting students?
I believe the answer to that is yes.
Yes, and I'll add a link to our full offerings of externships so you'll be able to see the wide range. How heavily is the undergraduate GPA weighed for someone with a few years of work experience? My application will emphasize work experience and work references since I know that my GPA is a weak spot competitively. So I'm happy to take that one. Of course, the numerical factors are very important in your application, but we take a holistic approach. So we will be taking into account your work experience, the time between, how you've used the time between graduation and working, and you're also welcome to include an addendum in your application. And that way you can put it into your own words on what you feel maybe were your weaknesses in undergrad, whether it was maturity or you went through something, traumatic, or you had some difficult semesters. You're able to put that in your own words, and then we will take all of that into consideration when reviewing an application. Marcus?
Hi, I was just wondering if there was opportunities to go into tax law and what kinds of opportunities are available at Buffalo.
Sure. We have amazing tax alumni who would love to hear you say those words. And actually, this is true for everyone who's mentioned any kind of thing you're interested in. My first answer would be long before you actually even sign up for the class, although truthfully, everyone should take tax so that you know what you're doing and talking about. But then again, I think everyone should take almost everything, which is why I keep telling you, there's not one class that you go look back on and say, I'm really sorry I took it. There really isn't. You need to learn all of these things. So I talked with an alum to talk about the best ways in which you could prepare yourself to work as a tax attorney. And we of course have tax 1, tax 2.
I actually worked for a congressman and he actually sat on the committee. So that was a lot of what I had to deal with in 14 years. So it's like, okay, let's just continue where we're going. Because I just found it interesting. That's why I asked.
It is surprisingly interesting. And having an interest in those areas makes people very attractive to practitioners in it. Because one of the problems and this is a good tip for everyone seeking to get a job, when people are trying to hire into a tax office or an insurance firm or something like that, it's tempting to say, I really don't know anything about it and I think it might be boring. But the people who come and say, I really have an interest in it, are going to be, what people hope. But of course, we will provide you with the multiple opportunities for different ways to try everything out. Because, I can't see all your faces, but I'm hoping that makes sense. You got to try different things to see if you like them. You've got to try the things you think you'll like, and you may not like them. You got to try the things you don't like, and you may love them. No one's mentioned real estate. Real estate law is a fantastic field too. Not just private real estate like homes and closings and banks and all that, but commercial real estate and development. Also fun. I kind of like all the fields is my problem. They're interesting. That's why I became a lawyer. I recommend all of them.
Okay, so is there an international student community at UB? And do you know if being a non-U.S. citizen will limit opportunities like externships and graduate jobs, etc.?
So there's a very large international community at UB. It's frequently one of the largest numbers of international students, I think, in U.S. higher education historically at the graduate level. We have quite a few at law school, so there's that. I think Kristen should answer the second part more specifically, and if you are an international student, you should talk with her directly in admissions for this. There are ways in which we provide the type of opportunities, but of course you must always comply with your visa rules.
Yeah, so we'll work with Career Services and our kind of expert in international enrollment and the process is Laurel Root. And I think that it would be really helpful to set up an appointment for you. So I will also put our contact information at the end so that you will have that and can set that appointment so that you can discuss your specific needs in that area. But yes, you should be able to participate in many of our experiential learning opportunities. And then do internship experience help with the application process?
That's also to you, Kristen.
Yeah. So yes, so we like to know what you're doing both inside the classroom and outside of the classroom. Learning opportunities, especially in legal, legal internships, are very helpful for us to see, your commitment to the study of law, but also how you're able to balance your time. And of course, those are very valuable for you so that you can kind of navigate and explore the areas of law that you might be interested in. But yes, so we are looking for both in the classroom experience as well as out of the classroom experiences.
But I want to make sure that no one feels intimidated by that either, right? It's also not required. So you'll speak with admissions, no one is expecting you guys to come in and have planned out your career on how to become, a senator or Supreme Court justice from the time you were in 10th grade. That is, that's just, it's not necessary. And there are lots of other ways to greatness. So, she'll go over all the different things, but also showing community service. How did you take leadership in different areas in community service is important. There's just so many things. Please schedule a meeting with Kristen in the admissions office if you want more specifics.
Absolutely. Are there any benefits for applicants who graduated from a SUNY school? So we definitely, we value our public education and we know the rigor of the coursework in our partner schools. And so that will help us to assess your academic performances. But there isn't any specific, advantage over another applicant.
Although don't get me wrong, when you graduate, you can help me, work with the legislature so that everyone gets a discount, but that doesn't happen yet.
So do general LLM candidates have training in real estate and cross-border legal field also.
You can if you want to. The whole point with the general LLM is that it's very much a choose your own adventure in the coursework. So if you're interested in some of the courses that would be in the cross-border LLM, but don't want to do all of them, you could do the general LLM instead and just take some of them.
And then the next question is, are there any in-person appointments or tours? At this time, we're still having virtual conferences as well as a virtual tour. I believe we posted it earlier in the chat, but I can add it again towards the end.
To the person who's interested in applying to the LLM, I also recommend you make an appointment. An LLM is a master's for someone who already has a law degree. It's only 1 year. So I think it's helpful to talk directly with admissions to think about what you would be thinking about taking earlier rather than later. But of course, you could also speak with our Vice Dean of International, Meredith Lewis, who will specifically work with you. We have specialists.
Are you expecting all classes to be in person for the next academic year?
At this point, of course, we are. We're hoping that there are no pandemic related restrictions.
Any other questions? Okay. I am just pulling a few links here for you, and visit us is the link that you'll use to access an opportunity to set up a conference call or a Zoom appointment. And you'll also be able to find any upcoming events as well as the virtual tour. And then I will also include my email address.
So did you guys find this a little bit useful? Good.
Actually, a lot actually, because as I'm already getting the argument that I'm too old for law school. So
no,
I'm getting that.
My mom didn't go to law school until she already had 2 kids, and she did just fine. She ended up first she did she was a torts attorney, and a plaintiff's attorney, mostly in medical malpractice suing doctors, and then she ended up a traffic judge. And I think that that's pretty impressive. She was very intimidating. And so I really do not believe that is anything that you should hold in your mind or prevent you from following your professional dreams.
Well, my girlfriend said to ignore it. So that's what I did. She's like, it's okay. You'll be fine.
That's a more succinct way of saying what I just said.
Well, thank you everyone for your questions. We wish you good health and lots of luck throughout the admissions process. Again, don't be a stranger. Feel free to give us send us an email or give us a call. We're happy to help.
And remember, you can do it. No one's accepted to law school who we don't believe could succeed. Okay? You can do this. You've got this. All right? Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind words in the chat. Thank you, Kristen and admissions. Remember, you want to talk to them.